Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning into the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. And of course, I am guest hosting for the day. This is Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, patriarchy, and all sorts of other things that, that we have all grown accustomed to these days. White privilege, all that good stuff. Speaking of white privilege, ex-Congressman Anthony Weiner, he's going to jail. He's going to jail for, guess what? I'll give you a wild guess. What do you think a guy named Weiner is going to jail for? He's going to jail for sexting a 15-year-old. Sexting, that's one of those words where you amalgamate the word sex and texting. So it's basically an ex-congressman, Anthony Weiner, was harassing a 15-year-old girl, an underage girl, sending him pictures of his wiener. Anthony Weiner was sending pictures of his wiener to a 15-year-old. Of course, CNN came out. CNN, New York Times, they came out condemning Anthony Weiner. Imagine if Donald Trump were sexting a 15-year-old girl. CNN would flay the guy. CNN would be calling for his head. CNN would be calling for a crucifixion. They'd be calling to see his head on a platter like Kathy Griffin's strange photo shoot where she held up a mock head of Donald Trump, displaying her similarities with ISIS and the like. CNN clearly did the same exact thing to Anthony Weiner, right? They flayed him. No, they didn't flay him. They said he couldn't help it. Huma was crying. Anthony was crying. Poor Anthony, he was crying because he's going to jail. He hit rock bottom. Anthony Weiner, he hit rock bottom. That's why he was sexting a 15-year-old. Not that he did anything like this in the past, right? Of course, he comes out with his apologies, with his platitudes, pretending to care about his victims, pretending to think that what he did was wrong. When we all know that folks who are friends with the Clintons, they're pretty much capable of anything. They're capable of murder. They're capable of molestation. They're capable of harassment. They're capable of rape. I mean, they're all friends. They're peas in a pod. I mean, this is what American taxpayers are subsidizing. Extracurricular activities. But to Democrats, these aren't extracurricular activities. These are just curricular activities. That's the name of the game. Rape, harassment, molestation, pedophilia. That's the name of the game when you're a Democrat, when you're a leftist. Salon.com. One of the main proponents of intersectional feminism and extreme hardcore leftism touted a pedophile. They entitled the article, "I'm a pedophile, but I'm not a monster." Newsflash, buddy, you are a monster. And so are you, Anthony Weiner. You are a monster. Anthony Weiner, his lawyer, actually had the gumption. He had the audacity to try to pull the sympathy card for Anthony Weiner. Prison is going to interrupt his recovery, quote, recovery from his compulsion. He's got a compulsion, you see. He's not an evil bastard. He's got a compulsion. He's sick. He's sick. And the only thing prison is going to interrupt for this flaming a-hole is the sanctity of his flaming a-hole. Because I hear they don't take kindly to would-be molesters in prison. And what kind of malarkey is this in recovery crap? He's not in recovery. Whenever a celebrity gets caught with their pants down, doing something nasty and rude, they always come out with their heartfelt apologies, crocodile tears, and say, "I'm an addict. I'm addicted to sex. In this case, I'm addicted to sexting. And I'm in recovery now. I'm getting better. And prison, if you send me to prison for what I've done, it'll interrupt my recovery. So, I mean, what do you want? What do you want? You want to interrupt my recovery so that when I get out of prison, I start sexting again? How about this? How about you pay for your crime? There's a reason why 15-year-olds aren't allowed to consent. Now, every time a celebrity or politician gets caught doing disgusting, that's what they say. They say, it's an addiction. I'm in recovery. And they think that that's just going to get them off scot-free. But I want to know, why don't they treat Trump like that when the liars come out, making baseless accusations against the president about rape and molestation? Why didn't the torches and pitchforks come out? I mean, why did the pitchforks come out? Just this simple insinuation, just the idea that the president might have done something. The pitchforks came out. Why didn't they show compassion? Why didn't they show Donald Trump the compassion? Why didn't they give him the benefit of the doubt? Maybe he's just a sick man who needs help. And you don't treat sick men by trying to string them up and to lynch them and torch their reputation. You help a sick man by helping him to get better, right? So why is it that when a Republican's reputation comes into question, when a conservative's reputation comes into question, it's immediate? The guy's evil. He's an evil bastard and he needs to be strung up. We need to string him up. But then when a leftist comes out doing something disgusting, oh, he's just sick. It's because leftists don't really care about the victims. We hear all this stuff about victim blaming. Don't blame the victim. You're victim shaming. If you even insinuate that a woman has moral agency when she goes out, if she wears practically nothing, she puts herself into situations where she's super duper drunk and she's super duper whatever. If you even insinuate that a girl has agency in what happens to her and that she can do things proactively to protect herself from things like rape. You can't even say that without being called a victim blamer, a victim shamer. You don't see the Democrats talking about this 15-year-old victim, do they? You don't see them rallying around to send Anthony Weiner to prison because of what he did with his wiener, which was sending pictures of his wiener to a 15-year-old girl. The guy's in his 50s. What about the victims of Weiner's nude, creepy exchanges with minors? And this isn't the only one. You know he did it more. And it's not just sexting. You know that. He's been escalating this for years. And if you think that he didn't act on this in some way or another, you've probably got another thing coming. But they could only prove that one. We'll be right back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful four-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning into the Kevin Jackson Radio Show, and of course, I'm guest hosting for the day. This is Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial. You can get me at dmpodcast.com or at Shaq General on Twitter. You can also get my Facebook, The Disgruntled Millennial. We got a lot of activity going on there. A lot of activity. You can get the latest on the news. You can get the latest on the latest memes, all the latest tropes that the leftists are going out there and doing. One of the things that we do is we actually put the leftist articles out there on my Facebook, on the Disgruntled Millennial Facebook. We don't sit there in our echo chamber like the Democrats do, criticizing the other side based on absolutely nothing, based on our caricature of the other side. No, we let the other side do the talking. We post things from the New York Times. We post things from the Huffington Post. We post things from Washington Post. Because nothing explains the evil of leftism like leftists. We don't even have to do anything. We just have to post their stuff, their articles, and if you are even remotely, if you even have half a brain, you can read into it and see that there is something wrong. If you have half a brain, you can read WAPO, you can read HuffPo, you can read the New York Times, as Andrew Klavan likes to say, a former newspaper. It's obvious how they shill. It's obvious how they shill for the Democrats. CNN punching Anthony Weiner with kid gloves as if he was 4 years old, touting the fact that he and Uma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's would-be chief of staff, were crying because he was going to go to prison. I would be crying if I were going to prison too, but guess what? It would be for something that I didn't do, because guess what? I'm not sexting 15-year-olds. I'm not breaking any laws. You break the law, you go to prison. That's the way it is, especially as a leftist. As a leftist, you constantly are calling for people to go to prison, for conservatives to go to prison, for the things that they think. For the things that they think, for the way that they conduct their own lives and their own businesses. You think that a woman should go to jail for not serving a gay couple a wedding cake. You think that conservatives should have to lose their lives and pay fines, extravagant fines, $150,000 for this one baker. Practically put a mom-pop baker out of business. You hear from the leftists, oh, buy local. Not if you believe in traditional marriage. You believe in traditional marriage, your business needs to get got. Except a powerful man in his 50s sexually harasses a young girl, and the leftists come out with their crocodile tears, saying, oh, he's going to go to prison. It's going to interrupt his recovery from his addiction to sexting. Now, we've heard from Anthony Weiner before. This is not a new thing. He's had issues with his wiener for a long, long time. He's had issues keeping his wiener in his pants for a very, very long time. Now, if you think this is new, and if you think his apology means anything, well, listen to one of his old apologies, because this isn't the first time he was caught sexting and harassing young folks, young people, minors, people who can't consent legally.
I'd like to take this time to clear up some of the questions that have been raised over the past 10 days or so, and take full responsibility for my actions. At the outset, I'd like to make it clear that I have made terrible mistakes that have hurt the people I care about the most, and I'm deeply sorry. I have not been honest with myself, my family, my constituents, my friends, and supporters, and the media. Last Friday night, I tweeted a photograph of myself that I intended to send as a direct message as part of a joke to a woman in Seattle. Once I realized I had posted it to Twitter, I panicked. I took it down and said that I had been hacked. I then continued with that story, to stick to that story, which was a hugely regrettable mistake. This woman was unwittingly dragged into this and bears absolutely no responsibility. I am so sorry to have disrupted her life in this way. To be clear, the picture was of me, and I sent it. I'm deeply sorry for the pain this has caused my wife, Huma, and our family, and my constituents, my friends, supporters, and staff. In addition, over the past few years, I have engaged in several inappropriate conversations conducted over Twitter, Facebook, email, and occasionally on the phone with women I have met online. I have exchanged messages and photos of an explicit nature with about 6 women over the last 3 years. For the most part, these communications took place before my marriage, though some have sadly took place after. To be clear, I have never met any of these women or had physical relationships at any time.
Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that Anthony Weiner has not had one physical relationship? That clip that you just heard was from back in 2011. 6 women back in 2011. It's 7 years, 6 years. That's a long time that's a long time to keep it in your pants if your name is Anthony Weiner. 7 years, and he just got caught for another 15-year-old. I guarantee you that this is a thing for him, and it has nothing to do with him being sick. It has nothing to do with him being addicted to sexting. It has to do with him being a Jack Wang. A powerful man in his 50s, a former congressman, husband of a would-be White House chief of staff, sexting with a minor, sexting, sending creepy nudes and eliciting sexual favors. A Democrat. A scumbag who has the nerve to use identity politics to convince us that American conservatives are deeply sexist? You're going to tell me that conservatives are the deeply sexist ones? Where are the social justice warriors coming out and saying, well, down with Anthony Weiner. He was sexually harassing a minor, and that's a display of implicit sexism in the Democrat Party. He's a congressman, a Democrat congressman, married to Huma Abedin. Doesn't get that much closer to Hillary Clinton. Doesn't get much closer than to the very center of the onion than Hillary Clinton. And this is her husband. Where is the talk about implicit sexism? Where is the talk about white privilege? No, they're not going to talk about that stuff. Because he is protected. He's protected by the leftists. They're not going to turn on their own. They're not going to turn on their own like we do. I'll tell you something. If a conservative, if Ted Cruz, if it was found out that Ted Cruz was sexting with a minor, I would send him right under the bus. I'm sorry. I would. You can't be a good guy and do what the bad guys do. You cannot be I will say that again. You cannot be a good guy and do what the bad guys do. Anthony Weiner is not a good guy. He does what the bad guys do. And all the people who are protecting him, they're not good guys either. They're not good people either. The people trying to protect him from his prison sentence, based on the one time he got caught. 7 years ago, he admitted to doing it with 6 other people. Now, you don't know how deep this goes. You don't know how far this goes. His lawyer must be getting paid a lot of money. I mean, I know that's what he's paid to do, but I mean, I don't know how some of these people can look themselves in the mirror. And I think this goes to show something deeper. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. We're going to talk about how this illustrates something way deeper about how the left is relentlessly trying to sexualize your young girls. We'll be right back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. And of course, I'm guest hosting for the day while Kevin is out triggering lefties left and right. Triggering lefties left and right, as he does all the time. People hate that Kevin Jackson is out there doing what he does because he is black. That's right, he's black. And if you think that these leftists care about the fact that a black man is a conservative, they don't really care about that. They have their talking points. They say he's an Uncle Tom. They say he's an Oreo. They say he's a house new. Which I find absolutely deplorable. It's really, really funny, though. It's really, really, really funny. Kevin and I have laughs about it all the time. We laugh that I'm the vanilla to the chocolate. I'm the token white on the show. Because he's my boss. There's your institutional racism for you. Kevin is my boss. I work for him. He calls the shots. But no, America is a deeply racist place. Conservatives are deeply racist. Somehow I exercise my white privilege over Kevin, even though he's my boss and he pays my bills. How does that work? One day the left is going to have to explain to me how that works. We say, oh, well, what about a black president? We had a black president for 8 years, and they say, well, that doesn't mean that racism doesn't exist. And then I say, well, I didn't say that racism doesn't exist. I wouldn't say that racism doesn't exist, just like I wouldn't say that human frailty doesn't exist. You can't govern people's thoughts. But as far as institutional racism, it is gone. It's gone. In fact, it's probably been reversed. It's a little more difficult for white people to get into college now than black people. People of color, as the left likes to call them. Aren't we all people of color? Anyway, this is Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live on a beautiful Friday from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. Unfortunately, I'm not free from Anthony's wiener right now because this guy's wiener just keeps on popping up. No pun intended. The guy's wiener just keeps on popping up. And we constantly have to hear about this, and we have to constantly do this again and again and again, watching the left protect this man. I know it's innocent until proven guilty, but if you honestly believe that he hasn't acted on one of these many, I mean, the guy is a creep. He just looks like a creep. You might be kidding yourself if you think that he would deny his impulses if he put himself in a situation where he actually were able to act on these sexting conversations with minors. Now, this is a perfect example of how feminism is bad for women. The left is constantly trying to sexualize your young girls. Even that Disney movie, Frozen. Let it go, can't hold me back anymore. Basically, what they're saying is that your antiquated views of morality can't hold back our young girls. They're going to let it out. They're going to let it hang. They're going to let it be free. No right. These are exact lyrics from the song. No right or wrong. No rules for me. I am free. That's what freedom is to the left. No rules at all. Nothing to constrain your own personal actions. Nothing to constrain your actions. No right or wrong. No morality. And then you have Ariana Grande. Teeny bopper, the new teeny boppers now are so sexualized. It's no wonder. It's honestly no wonder that this kind of stuff is becoming more and more regular. That girls are becoming sexualized younger and younger. Now, in a world where there's no right or wrong, in that leftist, postmodern, subjectivist, relativist point of view, yeah, there is no right or wrong. Why not sex with a 15-year-old? Why not? There's no right or wrong. You can't say that Anthony Weiner is right or wrong because right or wrong, the idea of right and wrong is antiquated. The idea of right or wrong is oppressive. You can't oppress me with your antiquated views of morality. What? It's really funny, though, because all of a sudden, when it's a conservative that does something, right or wrong is all of a sudden a thing again. Right or wrong is absolutes. Right being an absolute and wrong being an absolute, it's a thing again. When Donald Trump says grab him by the puss, right or wrong is all of a sudden a thing. When Anthony Weiner sends his wiener to a 15-year-old, all of a sudden there's no right or wrong. No rules for me. That's Disney. That's your little girls. Frozen came out a couple years ago. If you were maybe 11 or 12, you probably loved that movie. Now you're 15 years old. And what did you grow up with? What did you learn? No right or wrong. No rules for me. I'm free. Nothing to hold me back. No antiquated views of morality to temper my actions. A free-for-all. That's what the left wants. They want a free-for-all. This is why they come out with Anthony Weiner saying, oh, he was sick. Oh, he was crying. Oh, we should have some compassion for the guy. How about this? Why don't you have some compassion for the conservatives out there who are under a constant barrage from your identity politics and your nasty, disgusting tactics. And this is a perfect example of how feminism is bad for women because it emboldens powerful people to take advantage of young girls. It blurs the line between who is the victim. Pretending like Anthony Weiner is the victim? Only in a subjectivist, postmodernist world, only in a world with cultural relativism, where one person's actions are just as good as another person's actions, doesn't matter what they are, doesn't matter whether they're evil. In that world, Anthony Weiner is a victim. Don't you realize that? Well, she was asking for it. She was sexy. She was sexy for a 15-year-old. I couldn't help myself. Besides, there's no right or wrong. And all this is going to do is continue the downward spiral of American culture and morality. The Judeo-Christian values on which this country was based are constantly being eroded. And it's stuff like this. The hypocrisy of CNN coming out there saying, he was crying. We should have compassion for him. He had no control. He's sick. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about something that is a little bit near and dear to my heart because I am a big American Horror Story fan. I love that show. I've been watching that show since the very beginning. I thought it was a great apolitical way to kind of get my suspense rocks off. But this season, they've gone full SJW. American Horror Story used to be a good show. And just like most people in Hollywood, I don't know if any of you have Netflix, but Netflix has gone full on SJW. They've got shows like Dear White People, which is basically just an SJW tirade about how awful and terrible white people are and how privileged we are. An American Horror Story has been an amazing, awesome brand, totally apolitical up until this year. And now they've gone full-on SJW. The first episode was called Election Night. They didn't even bother to make up a storyline. They based it on reality. They based it on this actual election. Election night, Donald Trump wins, and all of a sudden the liberals start going crazy. Trump wins and liberals lose their minds in the very first episode of this season. And guess what it's called? American Horror Story. This season is called Cult. In the first episode, it's really, really funny because Ryan Murphy, the show's producer, announced that the season would revolve around the 2016 election, and he suggested that there might be a character based on Donald Trump. No, this is exactly about this election. They couldn't even make up a fake name, so even remotely put it in a fictitious universe. They couldn't even call him Ronald Crump. They called him President Trump. This is what I'm talking about. They have tried to take this election, turn it into America's Horror Story. Because Donald Trump got elected and hate crimes are rising. Right? Hate crimes are rising. Even though you can't really name one. Ryan Murphy, the show's producer, said that it would be representative of both sides of the political divide. He said in the next breath that it would be illuminating and highlighting groups of people who he believes to be ignored by the current Trump administration and who are afraid and feel terrorized that their lives are going to be taken away. Okay, in one breath, he says we're going to give a fair shake to both sides, but in the next breath, he basically explains what the show is going to be about. People who are ignored by the Trump administration. Keep in mind, this interview was in February. Trump had been president for what, 2 months? And already he can tell who is being ignored by the Trump administration, who is feeling terrorized by the Trump administration. No, the people who are terrorized by the Trump administration are the people who have bought in to the social justice warrior crap. And they didn't even stop and think that the real horror story is how utterly wrong the leftists are about everything and how much power they seem to have. We'll be right back.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning into the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. And of course, I am guest hosting for the day. This is Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. And we are here today, and we're going to talk a little bit about American Horror Story, because I believe that Hollywood, I mean, you've seen this with the Emmys. Hollywood is just gone so far to the left. They've just gone so far to the left. Hollywood sports, you really can't get away from it now. Colin Kaepernick boycotts, NFL boycotts. You really can't get away from it. And Hollywood is literally trying to shove it down your throat. They don't even bother with the pretext of a fictional story. They're gonna use the American Horror Story brand, a tried and true brand, to basically shove their ideas down your throat about leftism, pretending to give conservatives a fair shake. Maybe after there's been 4 episodes, I'm still waiting to see what happens. But at this point, I'm just so fascinated by the fact that they are just shoving down our throats every single SJW trope. White privilege, social justice warriors, middle America are racist, Trump supporters are evil, Trump supporters are crazy, Trump supporters are bigots, Trump supporters are racists, they're homophobic. Oh, that's the big one, because this season revolves around a gay couple who are married, who have a son, who are basically being terrorized by a bunch of Trump-supporting, cult-following, crazy Nazi-esque type people. It's really, really, really sad. They've gone full on SJW. In the first scene of the first episode, it's actually really funny. And as someone who's been a fan of the show, I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, this is a horror story, but not in the way that they're thinking, not in the way that the writers are thinking. This is a horror story. They're thinking that this is a horror story because it's so close to reality. In the first scene, the main villain of the show, the guy who was supposedly leading the cult, he's a young guy played by Evan Peters. He's got blue hair, which ironically is a leftist thing. It's the leftists, it's the feminists who go out there and say, I gotta have blue and purple hair because I want to be different. Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. The leftists are the one out there who are constantly changing their hair color. Look, I got no problem with changing your hair color, but the way that they made this guy seem, Evan Peters, he's got blue hair in the show. What he does when Trump is announced the winner of the election, starts humping his TV. Lives in a dark, dingy crap hole. He starts humping his TV, screaming, USA, USA, humping his TV. That's how Democrats, that's how liberals see us. They think we're just a bunch of lunatics who, when Donald Trump won, we made a mess all over our TVs. Humping our TVs. That's how crazy we are. This year's story revolves around a lesbian who has many phobias. She's mentally ill. The writers want us to think that she's mentally ill. They want us to think we don't know where all these fears are coming from. She has this fear of clowns. After the election, she was triggered. After the election, her phobias got worse. She slides deeper and deeper into her phobias. She thinks she's being terrorized by clowns, but nobody believes her. Ultimately, we find out that she's being targeted by Trump supporters. And they run the gamut. They run the gamut of leftist tropes. They run the gamut of leftist tropes, microaggressions, white privilege, the whole bit. I would suggest watching it just for morbid curiosity. Because the writers of this show didn't have any idea what this was going to be like. And now that almost a year has gone by, I think it's important that we take note of how, these writers wrote this show long before Trump didn't cart away the homosexuals. Remember that? That was the big thing a few days after the election. We're not going to have any more rights. We're not going to have any right to marry each other. We're not going to, they're going to take us away. Hate crimes against homosexuals are increasing. That was the big fear. And that was when they wrote this season. Now that none of that's happened, I don't know what they're all getting upset about. Unless they've been living in this totally cloistered leftist echo chamber where they still think that gays left and right are being targeted just for the fact that they're gay. This totally reminds me of something that happened right after the election. A lesbian that I know went online basically saying that she was accosted by she was verbally assaulted by a Trump supporter. Someone passed her in a grocery store and said, "Make America great again." So automatically she assumed that it was because she was a lesbian, turned it into this big, epic verbal assault, and went online basically begging for sympathy from all the leftist friends. And all the leftists came out in droves saying, "Oh, he must have been a deplorable. He must have been a Trump supporter. He must have been this. He must have been that. Hate crimes are rising." Hate crimes are not rising. Ryan Murphy, the show's producer, said in February that people feel terrorized. And there was hardly any evidence at the time that any group had been terrorized for any reason. There was no evidence. There was barely any evidence that any group had any reason to be afraid or to feel terrorized by Donald Trump or his supporters. It was a little premature because this entire season is assuming that the plot line would resemble Trump's America, which it doesn't. And he gives lip service to representing both sides, but anyone who can read, anyone who can think will know that any pittance given to conservative values was sloppily written by hardcore liberals, like a caricature. But liberals lack empathy, so it's no surprise that they can't write conservatives well. There's one example of when liberals were able to write conservatives well, and that was in the show Last Man Standing. But you know what? That show was canceled. Despite off-the-charts ratings, the one show on TV that actually gives credence to conservative values was canceled. And this is the kind of crap that we get. American Horror Story cult. In other words, Donald Trump supporters are cult followers. They're going to murder you. They're going to come into your house and slice you up because they're fanatics. They're white supremacists. Now, there's a really, really interesting way that American Horror Story, and this is sort of a spoiler alert because there's a lot of people from different races and several people, not a lot of people, maybe one or two from a different race, a different ethnicity who becomes a cult follower of Donald Trump's. Which shows even more. They think they're giving credence to the idea that Trump supporters come in all shapes and sizes, come in all walks of life, which they do. Being a Trump supporter knows no race. Being a conservative knows no race. White people don't have a monopoly on conservatism. And this is the one aspect that American Horror Story does get right, that there is not a monopoly on, that white people don't have a monopoly on conservatism. But guess what? American Horror Story season 7 is totally honest about their ideas of conservatives, of Trump supporters, that it doesn't matter what race you are, that their identity politics ultimately breaks down, that they're in an ideological battle against conservatism no matter what race you are. Now, of course, there are conservatives of all walks of life, but American Horror Story says that all of them, no matter what race they are evil bastards, evil pricks, evil murderers, stalkers. And that's the one thing they get right, even though they get it totally wrong. That evil knows no race, that evil knows no gender, evil knows no sexual orientation. But they've got the wrong idea about which side is evil. Now, this is why I said that this is a real American Horror Story. Because they have gotten this so right. And like I said, it's not an American Horror Story because it's true. It's an American Horror Story because it's false. It's American Horror Story because they get it so wrong. And this to me is the scary thing, is that you actually have people out there thinking, dehumanizing conservatives. Totally dehumanizing conservatives, making us out to be absolute punch a Nazi. Punch a Nazi. This is what American Horror Story Season 7 cult is doing. It's basically saying punch a Nazi, no matter what color they are. It's desensitizing liberals to violence against conservatives. It's promoting the idea that conservatives are so bad and so evil, so bigoted, so racist, so crazy and out of their minds, so cult-like, so collectivist, that the only way this season is going to be resolved is by killing conservatives, by killing Trump supporters, by killing these evil cult followers. This is sad, it's sick, it's disgusting, and we'll be right back.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Kevin Jackson Radio Show, and of course, I am guest hosting for the day. Who am I, you ask? This is Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. And you can always get me online. I'm on Facebook. I'm on the Facebooks. You can get me at Disgruntled Millennial on the Facebooks. You can get me at Shaq General on Twitter. I've got a YouTube channel, too. I've got a bunch of episodes on there, some vlogs, some videos. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about today is pop psychiatry. Leftist psychiatry. SJW psychiatry. A woman named Bandy Lee, a psychiatrist, got together with 27 other psychiatrists at a conference that she held, where they're going to psychoanalyze Donald Trump. And they found out a lot of interesting things about Donald Trump. They found out that he's crazy. Of course, medical professionals are supposed to abide by certain rules. This one in particular is called the Goldwater Rule. You're not supposed to psychoanalyze politicians, or anyone for that matter, that you haven't seen personally. Now, Bandy Lee, a clear, dyed-in-the-wool leftist, she's always been a leftist, has denied that such a rule applies in this sort of case. In the case of Donald Trump, it's the dangerous case of Donald Trump. The consensus of 24 psychiatrists and psychologists said that Trump is dangerously mentally ill and that he presents a clear and present danger to the nation and our own mental health. Not sure how they discovered that one. It's funny how they jump from psychoanalyzing a president that they've never actually met before to psychoanalyzing half of the country who voted for him. And like the climate change debate, no, 99% of scientists say this. Well, like the climate change debate, the book rests on an appeal to authority, because it's not just who would believe just one psychiatrist? They had to get 28 psychiatrists in the room. Oh, because there's 28 of them, it must be true. Their findings must be absolutely factual, based in reality. They have rules against this. It flies in the face of medical ethics to go around diagnosing people that you've never even met before. All of these people should lose their licenses to practice. Will they? Not likely. Because this is the special case. It's the special case of Donald Trump. He presents a unique threat to Western civilization. Actually, what they say is that he presents a unique threat to human existence. Well, that escalated quickly. And Bandy Lee, she knows she done wrong. In every interview and synopsis of her book, she prefaces it with, despite the Goldwater rule. Despite the Goldwater rule. She wants to detract from the fact that she violated a sacred rule of mental health ethics for mental health professionals. She violated a sacred rule. I mean, maybe she truly is so, maybe she believes in her leftist dogma so much that she truly believes Trump and his supporters will end human existence. That's what she says. In an article in Salon.com, she basically says that Donald Trump presents a threat to human existence. Not just gays, not just blacks, not just minorities, all human beings everywhere. Which sort of makes her a complete moron because she's living in a fantasy land. Don't trust her. I mean, maybe she doesn't even truly believe her claims. That would be more likely. To me, that's more likely. That she's just an opportunist who's trying to get her 15 minutes of fame because her career didn't really work out the way she thought it would. And now she's using Trump as an opportunity to have her moment in the sun. Now, if she's an opportunist, if that's what she's doing this for, you can't trust her either. You have no reason to trust this lady. It's like the immigration debate. Oh, these are illegal immigrants who haven't committed any crimes. They already committed a crime by being an illegal immigrant. Bandy Lee already committed she already violated medical ethics by violating the Goldwater rule. Why would you believe anything she says after that? Despite the Goldwater rule, blah, 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 blah. Everything after that is bullcrap. And it shows how SJW, intersectional feminist theory, is permeating every aspect of American life. You got CNN protecting Anthony Weiner. You've got Colin Kaepernick in football. You've got American Horror Story and all sorts of shows in Hollywood. They are trying to bring this SJW, intersectional feminist crap at you from every direction. A danger to the nation? She's not a national security expert. She doesn't know about national security. How does she know that Trump is a danger to the nation? How does she know that Trump is a danger to human existence? The only audience that she could get was the hardcore leftist publication Salon.com. She did an interview with Salon.com. This is the same people who put out an article saying, I'm a pedophile, but I'm not a monster. This is the same people who are trying to normalize pedophilia, are also trying to normalize this pop psychiatry where you can just go around diagnosing people. You can just go around diagnosing people. I saw a couple of YouTube videos, so I'm going to diagnose them. I saw a couple speeches of Donald Trump, so I'm going to diagnose him. Salon asks Bandy Lee, they said, how did a person like Donald Trump become president? And here's her answer. My being a psychiatrist, I will inevitably see things from that lens. I tend to think about the social context that gives rise to the current conditions. For me, the big shift in our society has been the increasing inequality. And with that, certain segment of the population will end up suffering from an undue amount of poverty. A relative poverty, actually. Deprivation, a lack of education, a lack of health care and mental health care. All those things will contribute to worsening of collective mental health. Collective mental health? This is what she thinks matters? Collective mental health? Collective mental health is nothing more than the aggregate of a bunch of individuals who might have mental health problems. There is no such thing as collective health. But this is how Democrats think. Like collectivists. We'll be right back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful four-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Kevin Jackson Radio Show, and of course, I'm your guest host for the day, Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial. That's right, I'm very, very disgruntled. I want to be gruntled, but I'm very, very disgruntled. Broadcasting to you live from my safe space out here in northern Florida, where I'm free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. I used to live in South Florida. Now I live in North Florida. South Florida and North Florida are like two different states. It's really, really crazy. I love northern Florida because it's more red, and I never really fit in South Florida, which is where I grew up. I grew up in Miami, but I never really fit in down there for some reason. I realize now that it's because I have a brain on my shoulders. I've got a brain in my head. I can actually think about things and dissect things, and I don't buy into this crap, this leftist crap. This virtue signaling from the left, it's crazy. Virtue signaling from the left. From people like Bandy Lee, the psychiatrist who wrote a book called The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. Not only is she trying to psychoanalyze the president without ever having met him, she wants to psychoanalyze half the country too. Salon.com, the hatchet publication, who basically touts pedophiles, saying that I'm a pedophile, not a monster. That's something that they want to put out there. They want to normalize pedophilia. The same people who want to normalize pedophilia are trying to make Donald Trump sound like a crazy lunatic because 28 psychiatrists said so. They never met him, but still, who cares about that? They can watch a few speeches, and since they're so smart, they're so talented, they're so good at what they do, they can psychoanalyze a guy from afar. Maybe they can Baker Act him too. If enough psychiatrists get together and say that Donald Trump is crazy, can we put him in a straitjacket? Or is this just the evil planting of another seed? Another leftist seed? But they're trying to unfairly paint conservatives and Republicans as evil, nasty, crazy lunatics. Salon asked her, they asked her point blank, they said, well, is he crazy or is he evil? Because if he's just a nut job who is just flying by the seat of his pants and doing whatever his crazy mind says to do at that exact moment with no relationship to reality or no relationship to the moment or the task at hand, well, that kind of lays waste to the idea that he's some sort of evil mastermind, right? That he's playing four-dimensional chess in order to destroy America, to be evil, that he's going to put people in concentration camps. Which is it? Is he crazy or is he evil? Well, Bandy Lee says he's both. She says they're not mutually exclusive. So she's a psychiatrist and she's a philosopher. She's a psychiatrist and she's an expert in ethics. She says he's going to destroy the human race. She's going to make the human race go extinct. That's what Donald Trump is going to do. The human race depends on her and 28 other people coming out and sounding the alarm about Donald Trump's mental health. So she's a national security expert, too. She does a lot of things. That's really amazing, Miss Bandy Lee. You must be really smart. When Salon asked her, what do you think the United States is going to look like after Donald Trump leaves office? She says, he has exacerbated the pathological patterns of our culture. Pathological patterns of our culture? This qualifies as psychiatry? Oh, my God. She says, what would happen if the presidency continues? I think more damage will be done. In fact, the latter part of the book consists of some of the effects of his policies, including the repealing of the Affordable Care Act, his immigration policies, his tax laws, his military policies. All of these things will have ramifications and reverberations throughout his environmental policies, his educational policies. In fact, Dr. Robert J. Lifton said at the conference that Trump's style of governing could be described as anti-governing. So these people aren't just psychiatrists. They're experts in government. Not only that, they want to psychoanalyze all the people who voted for Trump, too. They say it's a pathological desire for fear-mongering and hatred. And Donald Trump just took advantage of the mental disabilities that most conservatives and Americans are facing. They're facing mental disabilities. Well, let me ask you this. If we're all just a bunch of crazy sick people, then why not treat us like crazy sick people and give us some help and show us some compassion? Like Anthony Weiner, like you show Anthony Weiner compassion. Oh, you say he's sick. You say he's not a evil, demented, twisted pedophile. You think he's just some normal guy who's just sick. You show him compassion. If you think we are crazy, if you honestly thought that we are just nuts and basically disabled, well, by you calling us evil and trying to string us up, well, that's ableism right there. Aren't you against ableism? Aren't you against discriminating against people who are sick by no fault of their own? Or could it be that you're just a bunch of hypocrites? Could it be that you really don't care about sick people? Could it be that you really don't care about minorities? Could it be that we are the ones that care about minorities? Could it be that we are the ones who see people as individuals, not as members of an identity group? No, I suggest you go and read that article from Salon.com, which, like I said, Salon.com, the publication that touts pedophiles. I'm a pedophile. I'm not a monster. You want some candy? Get into my truck, little girl. I'm not a pedophile. I'm not a monster. I'm just a pedophile. Don't worry. I'm not going to touch you. As long as I don't touch you, it's okay that I give you my candy. It really, really makes me sick that the same publications who tout pedophiles are out there saying that Donald Trump and half of America are mentally ill. They're mentally defunct. The fact is that you can't review a movie unless you've seen the movie. You can't review a movie from watching the preview. And this is what 28 psychiatrists got together in Yale to decide. They watched the preview of the movie and decided to write a review on it. Not only did they review the movie, they reviewed all of the people who made the movie. And of course, I'm talking about the election. Of course, I'm talking about Donald Trump. It's a metaphor. The fact is that you cannot diagnose someone if you haven't sat in the same room with them, no matter how many clips on YouTube you've seen. Could you imagine someone doing that to you? How would you like it if somebody did that to you? Miss Bandy Lee, would you like it if someone psychoanalyzed you? I'll tell you what, I'm going to try this right now. You have narcissistic disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. Could you think you are so smart? You think you are so grandiose? You think everybody listens to you and likes you so much that you could just break one of the most sacred rules in psychiatry, the Goldwater rule? requiring you not to diagnose a person until they have been examined. Sounds like a narcissist to me. Whoa! You see how easy that was? I'm a psychiatrist now! All right, we'll be right back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. And of course, I am subbing in for the great Kevin Jackson while he's out in the world triggering lefties, triggering liberals, which he loves to do. And he sort of does it automatically because he's a black conservative. I mean, he just literally just has to show up to the party and the leftists start losing their mind. And like The Exorcist, the head starts spinning around 360 degrees. And I am subbing in for him in his stead, and I will be, trying to hold down the fort, sitting in the big boy chair, trying to bring news and politics and culture to you, just so that you guys know that no matter what Kevin is out there doing, that we are all here at the Kevin Jackson Radio Show, still hard at work trying to bring you everything that you need to know so that you can approach the world with clear eyes and a clear head. And I, of course, broadcast to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. And I want to talk a little bit about something going on in everyday feminism. Of course, everyday feminism is the receptacle for everything that is terrible and awful and nasty and disgusting about modern American society. An American society where cultural Marxism, leftism, postmodernism has seeped its way into the universities, seeped its way into our culture, seeped its way into Hollywood, seeped its way into sports, seeped its way into psychology, sociology, everything that you can possibly imagine. And this is the goal. This is the end goal. Even though there are a lot of good-hearted people out there who just want to do good, get caught up in some bad ideas when they're young. They have parents who are leftists, who are giving them hormone replacement therapy, who are just telling them it's a big free-for-all and that you do what you do what you want all the time. Kids know best. All that stuff, just be free spirit, and just make sure you do one thing. All you have to do in life, you can do anything you want in life. No right or wrong, no values whatsoever, but the one thing you do have to do is hate conservatives. And hate anyone that doesn't believe the same things that you do. Now, everyday feminism is a receptacle for everything that is terrible and awful about American society. And one of the things that I struggled with my weight throughout my life. I've spent a lot of time at the gym. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to manage it. I was not born one of those I wasn't born with skinny privilege, as the leftists might like to say, But I don't go around like hating skinny people. I don't go around hating skinny people. I realize that I have a specific sort of disadvantage. I've got a lot of advantages. I've got a good head on my shoulders. I understand things very well, but I wasn't born with like a Greek. I wasn't born looking like a Greek god. And there's just a lot of good reasons why someone might want to look like a Greek god. Muscles make you strong. Muscles make you able to do things. It's better to be muscular than to be flabby. Because when you approach life, when something happens, when you get into some sort of emergency, you are able to deal with it. If you are athletic, that's a good thing. Why is it a bad thing? Why is being athletic a bad thing? Why is not being fat a bad thing? This is what the feminists want you to think. They think if you hit the gym, you're implicitly saying that fat isn't as good as skinny. This is how far we've come. Basic, fundamental biological facts about our health are denied, are pushed to the side, are marginalized. So that someone who wants to eat nothing but Twinkies and McDonald's all day long can feel good about themselves. And that's really what leftism is about, unearned values. Money is a value. Money is the solid form that you can use to transfer the work that you did at work to getting groceries at the end of the day or buying a nice house. Money is the solid form of the time that you spent trying to make something in life. And what does leftism want to do with money? They want to take it from you and give it to someone else. They want unearned values. And being skinny and being fit is no different than that. You have to earn being healthy. You have to make good decisions. You have to make good decisions about your body. Now we have all this business about fat shaming. You can't shame someone who's fat. I don't want to shame anyone who's fat. I don't want them to feel bad. Look, honestly, there wouldn't be a fat shaming, there wouldn't be a body positivity movement, which is this movement that says that no matter how big you are, no matter how fat you are, if you're 500 pounds and totally unhealthy and are, you can't walk up a flight of stairs without hyperventilating. Hold on a minute. Give me a sec. That this is just as good as being able to shoot up the stairwell with like it's nothing. Being able to get from A to B, one of the most basic, fundamental, the first thing you learn how to do is to get from A to B. Walking. It's not that hard. You put one foot in front of the other. You can get off the couch. I did it. I was really overweight. I felt terrible about myself, not because, listen, there are basic fundamental, people are wired to be attracted to certain things. Most people are wired that way. People are wired to be attracted to health. On a strictly, purely anthropological level, a man wants to know that when he inseminates a woman, that the child is going to be cared for, not just physically by the mom when the baby is born, but he wants to know that the baby is being fed well, so that the baby comes out strong and has advantages in life. And I'm sorry, but for moms and for dads, you can't just go around treating your body like John Bonham's nervous system and then try to make us all feel positive about it. There's an article in Everyday Feminism. Like I said, it's the receptacle for everything terrible. And it says 3 reasons why you can't have body positivity without feminism. Now, this is just insane. I mean, to me, the whole body positivity movement is ridiculous. There's nothing positive about being fat. Name one thing that's positive about being fat, other than that you're attracted to that small portion of the population who has a fat fetish. Name one good thing about it. And you know what? I've got privilege. I've got cred when it comes to this because I was fat and I turned my life around. There's nothing positive about being fat. I'm not talking about a little extra weight, a little extra pudge or whatever. That's fine. That's good. I like that. I like a little extra, a little cushion for the pushing, if you know what I mean. But let's not pretend that being 500 pounds is in any way good for anything. Now, you have a right to do whatever you want with your body. I do believe that. But don't try to shove your idea about body positivity down my throat. You're not going to convince me that my time at the gym isn't valuable, and I don't feel good, that the endorphins don't get kicking. I like the way I look. I like the way I feel. The human body works a certain way. And if you abuse it, it will not work the way it's supposed to work. That is biology. That has nothing to do with fat shaming. That has nothing to do with hating fat people. But feminists, the feminists at Everyday Feminism, and this is most intersectional feminists, they want you to think that the only way that you can feel good about your body is if you're a feminist. Now, even a broken clock is right twice a day, because I think that they are right. I think feminism is so toxic. I think feminism is so cancerous that they reverse everything that is true and real about the world. That yes, body positivity is a feminist thing. You cannot be a body positive without a feminist. And when I say body positive, I don't mean that you feel good about yourself when you do something good for yourself, like go on a run or eat a good, wholesome meal. I'm talking about the body positivity, the movement that says that no matter how fat you are beautiful, or whatever. Everyone has to think that you are beautiful. And if you don't think that someone who is fat is beautiful, well, then you hate fat people. You are fat shaming. Now, only in a movement like feminism could something like body positivity come about. Because it reverses everything about biology that we know inside of our DNA. We know it. We know what we're attracted to. We know it doesn't come from a place of hate. But no, feminism says that your personal inclinations, your personal predilections are social constructs. You don't really find your girlfriend attractive. You don't really find athletic girls attractive. You don't really find normal-sized people attractive. That's just a social construct. That's the patriarchy telling you what you're supposed to think. And really, if left to your own devices, you would think that fat people are beautiful. And I keep having to clarify. When I say fat, I mean really fat. I mean out of control fat. We all know what I'm talking about. So don't be like, oh, I've got a few extra pounds. Stop saying that I'm, whatever. I've got a few extra pounds. But let's not turn our backs on biology. Remember, these are the same people that think that they can change a man into a woman and a woman into a man just by putting a bunch of hormones and chopping off some parts. Now, if my attraction to girls who can move around without hyperventilating is some sort of social construct, then I wouldn't necessarily bash the idea of social constructs. They keep people alive. We'll be right back.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
When somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired! You know, some owner's going to do that. He's going to say, that guy that disrespects our flag, he's fired. And that owner, they don't know it. They don't know it. They're friends of mine, many of them. They don't know it. They'll be the most popular person for a week. They'll be the most popular person in this country because that's a total disrespect of our heritage. That's a total disrespect of everything that we stand for, okay? Everything that we stand for. And I know we have freedoms and we have freedom of choice and many, many different freedoms. But you know what? It's still totally disrespectful. And you know, when the NFL ratings are down massively, the NFL ratings are down massively. But you know what's hurting the game more than that? When people like yourselves turn on television and you see those people taking the knee when they're playing our great national anthem. The only thing you could do better is if you see it, even if it's one player, leave the stadium. I guarantee things will stop. Things will stop. Just pick up and leave. Pick up and leave. Not the same game anymore anyway. Now, one of the things we've done, and when I say we, it's us together, we protect religious liberty. Because we know that faith and family, not government and bureaucracy, are the true centers of American life.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning into the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. And of course, I am guest hosting for the day. This is Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and of course, your patriarchy. That was, of course, Donald Trump speaking about the NFL anthem kneelers You know, those fine Americans who are just protesting the awful, terrible place in which they live. The awful, terrible place in which they made millions and millions of dollars. Last time I checked, the NFL was pretty black. But no, there's institutional racism in America. So even if a black man becomes president, even if black men dominate sports, and rightfully so, I think may the best man win. I don't care what color you are. As long as you put on a good show and do all and are athletic enough, I don't care what color you are. Nobody does. Most of the people who watch football, they don't care either. Can you imagine the kind of slap in the face this is to half of America, to half of the people? I presume more than half of the people who actually watch football. But no, Trump says pick up and leave, and now Trump hates football. He declares nuclear war on football. And since the NFL is mainly black, that means he hates black people. That's the kind of reasoning that leftists do. Well, that's funny, though, because there's no logic to it. Because if you were going to actually make the statement that Trump is a racist and that he hates black people and that he's targeting the NFL, you sort of have to admit that NFL is disproportionately, blacks are disproportionately represented in football. Which, like I said, I'm totally fine with. I don't even care about football. I really don't care about football. I could give two flying you-know-whats about football. And about the football players. I don't care who's playing. I remember when I was a kid watching my uncles scream at the TV, and I just couldn't understand what was so important about what was going on TV, that they were screaming at the TV. But some people do get into it. You know, football fans are diehard fans. I mean, I've been to a bunch of games. You know, I go to the party. I watch the Super Bowl. You know, it's a fun day with friends, even though everyone else is way more into it than I am. I can get into it. I'm not a stick in the mud. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I hate football. I can't go to your football party. No. It's fun. I get it. I understand the draw. It's just not for me. But what I don't get is how these players can just literally slap their own country in the face. There's no NFL in Saudi Arabia. Now, these people want to talk about institutional racism. Why aren't they talking about the institutional racism in all the Muslim countries where there's no Jews allowed? Where Coptic Christians are enslaved and murdered. People's heads cut off. No, they say they're doing this for America. They're kneeling for America. But I thought America was a terrible, awful, racist place. No, they're kneeling for what they think America should be, which is basically communist Russia, where everyone is absolutely equal. You know, if these people really wanted equality, if these football players really wanted equality, why aren't they sending their big, fat paychecks into poor communities? No, I'm not talking about just a big donation that's barely a drop in the bucket for them. I mean a real donation that would make them less rich. A real donation that would put their own security at risk. Because that's basically what the policies that leftists support. Redistribution of wealth. They want to put your earnings at risk so that other people can get unearned value. So why aren't these football players putting their money where their mouth is? No, they're disrespecting the flag. They're disrespecting the anthem. And to add to compound the disrespect, they're saying that this is what America is all about. No, this is not what America is all about. What's insane is how removed from reality these people actually are. Because in their world, Trump's America looks something like this.
Well, I'll say thank goodness that Donald Trump done legalized white supremacy.
Ever since I joined the force, I've been dreaming of the day I could put the hurt on them racial and social minorities.
Yeah, I hear you. I done opened up a hefty can of whoop-ass on 4 of them faggots just yesterday.
Haha, for what?
Nothing. They were just acting all gay and stuff.
Those pants were so tight I could see his religion. Well, what do we have here?
Well, God has just blessed us with a runaway negra. I do believe that man is driving while black.
Well, come on, Billy Joe, let's get him.
Put your hands outside the window, boy. Don't make me tell you twice now. Have your license and registration ready. Turn that music down, boy.
Can I help you, officer?
Oh, wait a minute. You ain't no name. You know why I pulled you over?
This nigga, of course I do, man.
I'm driving while black. You see a black man driving down the road, and you think you can just pull him over without no due process and no judge and jury and taking away his constitutional rights, man? Yes, but, no. We mistook you for, a jigaboo, okay? The law says you can't be driving while black, and you are clearly not a black man, so you're free to go. What you talk about, man? I am black. Everybody know the black and the berry, the sweet and the juice, and I'm as black as they come. Now that institutional racism is the law of the land, I could get in trouble for beating up on a white boy. Man, pick up that baton, beat me till I'm dead, or I'm gonna sue the city for discrimination. False alarm, Billy Ray. It's just Sean King again. My, that boy's about as confused as a fart in a fan factory.
If you're tired of being that lame white guy in your brand new group of brothers, you need Rosetta Stone Ebonics Translator. End confusion and miscommunication between you and your homies. Translate common phrases like
"They done partied and is going to the crib,"
which in English means
"They finished partying and are now going home."
You can translate simple phrases like
"She drinking milk even though she be drinking Coke,"
which in English means
"She is drinking milk even though she usually drinks Coke."
Even complex phrases can't stump the Rosetta Stone Ebonics Translator.
"They didn't do nothing about nobody having no money or nothing like that,"
which in English means
"They didn't help anyone who has no money."
The Rosetta Stone Ebonics Translator can even help you cap a sack in the hood.
"I'm fitting to get a blunt,"
which in English means
"I am going to the convenience store to purchase a cheap cigar out of which I will smoke marijuana."
And with a little bit of practice, you'll impress all of your black friends with your fluent Ebonics. Trust me, they'll love it. Pre-order Rosetta Stone Ebonics Translator by calling 1-800-I'm-STONED. That's 1-800-I'm-STONED.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning into the Disgruntled Millennial portion of the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. I am Brett Siegel, otherwise known as the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I am always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, patriarchy, and of course your white privilege. Today I do want to talk a little bit about white privilege because it's one of these things it's one of these tropes that are going around that's just getting really, really irritating. Because the racism is written all over it. The left doesn't want you to make broad generalizations about Muslims or women or homosexuals or transgenders or anyone. But they are so ready and willing to make broad generalizations about cisgendered straight white men that it just makes your head spin how fast they change their story from one breath to the next, literally. Literally. And it's because that their intersectionality, their intersectional feminism is such a it's so circular and so dogmatic that ultimately to them it seems like a science. That's what it feels like to them. It's a science, you know. You have the hierarchy of needs, and then you have the hierarchy of victimhood, and these are facts of life to them. Just as sure as you breathe air, intersectionality is a fact of life to these people. And white privilege is the is the holy grail. It's the thing. It's white privilege is the idea that makes the entire thing tick. Without white privilege, the entire thing falls. The entire philosophy of intersectional feminism, or as I would call it, an anti-philosophy, the entire thing breaks down. Because if you don't have that common enemy at the top that's oppressing everybody else, well, then no one is victimized. There is no such thing as institutional victims. The whole philosophy comes crashing down. So they need white privilege. They need it. They need white privilege in order to make the entire philosophy tick. That's why when Hillary Clinton comes out and says, we have implicit bias and implicit race, this is why. What she is talking about is cisgendered, straight white men. That's what she's talking about. So you get these strange leftist ladies who are, I mean, to me, it's just a bunch of virtue signaling because I don't really know how anyone can truly believe this. I mean, when you walk in line, when you go into a store, into a convenience store, you don't skip ahead of the black people. If you're white, you don't have white privilege. They don't charge you less. When it's raining outside, it's not like it rains on only black people and then there's a ray of sunshine that comes gleaming in from the sky just to illuminate the white people on the street. No, it rains on everyone. But they need white privilege. They need white privilege so that white people, they need a common enemy. Now, the common enemy is a white. If the common enemy is white, well, doesn't that make the whole entire philosophy racist? No, because they have a loophole for that. They say that black people and brown people and minorities can't be racist. They don't have the power to be racist. That's where white privilege comes in. White privilege is the little power, the little invisible powers that white people have in society that other minorities and people of color don't have. So that's how they can get away with claiming that they're not racist when they make broad generalizations about white people. That's how they can get away with this rhetoric that is dividing everyone and basically turning white people into an enemy. To a natural enemy. Because if white people have invisible power over you, if you look at white people as just a bunch of whip crackers, you're going to dehumanize them. And that's one of the most awful things about racism is dehumanizing the other race. How do they get away with that? They say, well, brown people can't be racist because they don't have the power. Racism equals prejudice plus power. Black people can be prejudiced, but they can't be racist. So Peggy McIntosh, a lady back in the 80s, she wrote down a list, and this goes to show you how out of touch the leftists are. She wrote a paper called White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. In other words, white people carry around a bag of goodies. And when we need it, we pick out from the bag of goodies, and only white people have this bag of goodies. And this is what she writes this list. And it's just insane. I started reading this list, and it's just unbelievable how out of touch these people are. She says, these are examples of white privilege. I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time. Okay, first of all, what is she even talking about? You can arrange to be around whoever you want. It's a free country. If you want to be around people of your color, be around people of your color. Nobody's stopping you. Nobody is stopping you. And if black people want to get together and be around people of your color, nobody's stopping you. And notice the little racism in there? The little bits of racism. It's okay for black people to want to be around each other, but it's not okay for white people to want to be around each other. But somehow, black people have less access to being around other black people. Maybe it's a population thing. In Africa, in certain African countries, it would be harder for white people to be around other white people. So what? What's your point? No, this is an example of white privilege. This is white people grabbing from the bag of goodies that we have here in America. We can be around white people if we want to. Another one. She says, if I should need to move, I can be pretty sure of renting or purchasing a house in an area I can afford and in which I want to live. That is everyone. If you can afford it, if you have the right credit, then you can live anywhere. If you don't, you won't. And that is not based on race or color. That's based on your credit. That's based on your ability to pay. That's not white privilege. That's not racism. I don't dip in my bag of goodies and pull that one out. I don't live in the biggest house. I live in a pretty small house. Another one, she says, I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I'll not be followed or harassed. Okay, I live in a multi-ethnic neighborhood, and I've never, ever, ever one time witnessed anyone getting harassed. I've always lived in a multi-ethnic neighborhood, and I've never witnessed that happen one time. You would think that if it were such a problem that I would have seen it one time. Of course, she's bringing up anecdotes. Why shouldn't I bring up an anecdote? I bet she's never seen anyone get harassed. This is a doozy. This is really funny. I can talk with my mouth full and not have people put this down to my color. This lady's got some serious white guilt going on. Anyway, I'm Brett, the Disgruntled Millennial. We'll be right back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Disgruntled Millennial portion of the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. My name is Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, white privilege, and patriarchy. You can also get me on Facebook, The Disgruntled Millennial. You can get me on Twitter at Shaq General. I love it when people hit me up on Facebook because we got a lot going on there. We give you the latest in news. We give you the latest in culture, just like Kevin's Black Sphere. We do it all with the conservative snark and charm that you have grown to love and respect about this show, the love and respect for this country that has made you a regular listener, and we appreciate that. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about today is also this whole business about Jimmy Kimmel. I'm sorry, look, it's the Man Show. look, I loved The Man Show. The Man Show was fun, but let's not pretend like leftists shouldn't be tossing Jimmy Kimmel under the bus right now and bringing out all the videos of the girls in bikinis jumping on trampolines, bringing out all the videos of him doing sexist and misogynistic things and showing us what a awful, terrible person Jimmy Kimmel is. But no, Jimmy Kimmel's a leftist, so he gets a pass. Just like Weiner, just like Clinton, Jimmy Kimmel gets a pass. Not only that, Jimmy Kimmel has used his stage, has used his spotlight to sort of promote the idea of the Affordable Care Act. Now, he has sort of this anecdotal experience where he had a son. I feel terrible about this, but he had a son who had a heart problem. He was born with a heart problem, and of course, the leftists like to use this one through no fault of his own. And thank goodness that Jimmy Kimmel is filthy stinking rich and can afford the best in doctors. But his idea is that he's going to come forth promoting the Obamacare, bashing conservatives for, wanting to repeal Obamacare, doing the exact thing that all the leftists do. Of course, he is a leftist. He does the exact thing that they've always done. They say, he wants my son. Conservatives want my son to die. Conservatives want children to die. Conservatives think that all children who are born with a disease beyond their control should not have any care at all. That's just coming out of my mouth like that. It just sounds utterly insane. Forget the fact that they beg so many questions. Of course, we want children who have, by no fault of their own, have issues, have medical bills and a pre-existing condition. Of course, we want them to get medical care. In fact, socializing medicine and giving massive amounts of care to anyone, whether they need it or not, actually takes resources away from those kids. So there are arguments to be had on both sides. It's not just a one-size-fits-all like Jimmy Kimmel wants to pretend that it is. Because to him, it's either his way or the highway. Now, I've got some anecdotal experience, too. I've actually been involved in several charities that do exactly that. They help children who are born with autism, who are born with cerebral palsy. Children who, by no fault of their own, were born at a disadvantage. I've seen in the flesh what human generosity looks like. In just a couple years, we've raised over $2 million. That's just for one small part of Florida. One city in Florida. $2 million. Now, I know it's not a lot, but that's just me. That's just me and my family. There's a couple fundraisers that we are involved in, but I've seen what generosity looks like in the flesh. And the way Jimmy Kimmel is coming out is saying, all children are going to be left, we're just going to send them down the river and hope for the best. Send the children down the river or just abort them. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's a leftist thing to do. It's funny how the same exact baby that Jimmy Kimmel is talking about, he probably would have supported terminating right up until the point of birth. If Hillary Clinton had it her way, that's what your abortion laws would look like. And there are a lot of people who still do that. No, but no, leftists are the ones that care about the children. They really care about the children. They want children to get health care. They want children to be taken care of. Well, I'm sorry. You could use your anecdotal evidence, and I can use my anecdotal evidence. But the fact remains that you're not even discussing Jimmy Kimmel. You're not even discussing the idea that maybe free market solutions would be better for those children. You won't even have it. No, you want to demonize anyone who doesn't support Obamacare. Jimmy Kimmel actually wants to punch the guy. Look, I don't think he actually wants to punch the guy. I think it was a joke. I don't think there's any violence going to happen. But you know what? We can stop talking about Donald Trump's divisive and argumentative and vitriolic rhetoric. We can stop talking about that. Because as far up as it goes on the leftist ladder, you see the same exact thing from the other side. Divisive, nasty rhetoric that's basically just meant to demonize the other side. I think a lot of us are guilty of it these days. A lot of us are guilty. I'm guilty of it. I mean, I happen to think leftism is based on an evil philosophy that has no place in American society. I think that if you want to have your perfect utopian communistic society where everyone is absolutely equal, everyone is just as tall, everyone is the same color, everyone is a perfect is androgynous, no difference between one person or the other, economically, physically, where every single disparity has been taken care of, you can go live there if you all want to, but don't mess with our great free society. Don't mess with it. It's great. We love it the way it is. We want to keep it that way. We want to conserve it. That's why we are called conservatives. We want to conserve it because it's good. Not because it's old, but because it's good. In fact, collectivism, egalitarianism is a pretty old idea in and of itself. A lot of people have been trying to do that over the years. It fails every single time. You want to go and create your own society somewhere else, don't do it here. I think it's really easy for Jimmy Kimmel to stand there and proselytize about health care when he is never going to have to worry about another health care day in his life. It's all just a bunch of virtue signaling. Virtue signaling. So he gets to go out there and feel like a great person who did something super duper awesome for everyone. Because now everyone's going to think that Republicans are bad. And that's a good thing. I mean, he just as easily could have made the exact opposite case. My son was going through a congenital heart disease or whatever it is that he was born with. And if it weren't for my big fat paycheck, a lot of people who have been hammered by Obamacare wouldn't be able to pay for it. Now, that's a good reason to repeal and replace. We need to get free market solutions into the, we need to unshackle the doctors. We need to unshackle the insurance companies so that they can offer competitive prices and competitive plans that are geared towards people in their specific pool. Do it for my son. Do it for my sick son. Unleash the free markets, please. If you don't unleash the free markets, then you hate children. See how it's done? We'll be right back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Kevin Jackson Radio Show, and of course, I am your guest host for the day, Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, patriarchy, white privilege, and of course your Islamophobia. Today I'm here with Annie Cyrus. She's a friend of the show. She's a great friend of mine. She's an Iranian-American human rights activist, and she warns of the devious Islamic threat that will topple human society. She founded Live Up to Freedom, where she helps little girls who are brutalized by Islamic extremism, or as we like to call it, Islam. She's a member of the Glazov gang, and she is going on tour to spread the story and the ideas that YouTube and Facebook have decided are too controversial for people to see and hear. Annie Cyrus, welcome to the show.
Always a pleasure to be here, Brett.
How are you doing today? How are you feeling today? I just want to know.
At this very moment, I'm feeling good because I'm on with you. But in general, I'm very frustrated. I'm pissed off.
Let's go through a little bit of a biography. Tell us exactly where you're coming from and why your message about Islam is so important and so germane to American society.
Well, I was born and raised in Islamic Republic of Iran, also known as Iran. And the reason it's very important to mention Islamic Republic of Iran is because 38 years ago, Iran was an Islamic republic. It was just Iran. And we had this beautiful king who ran our country beautifully. And somehow, radical Muslims, Ayatollahs and mullahs, who are leaders of Islamic states, they invaded my country, they took over my country, and lucky me, I was born after the revolution of Islamization of Iran. So I was pretty much raised for the first 15 years of my life under 100% Sharia within my family, within my society, and within my country. And I pretty much went through anything that Sharia has for a woman, including being called a woman at age 9, including being raped, beaten, put in prison for things that don't even count as anything wrong in Western society. And I was also sold as a child bride. My father sold me to a man when I was very close to my 13, 14. And by age 15, I escaped. And the reason my story is very important for everyone to hear is, as I say it, they're doing the same thing everywhere, including here in America. And if we don't stop them, the future of this country will be nothing better than where I was born, which is Islamic Republic of Iran.
Well, a lot of your critics like to say, well, that's not mainstream Islam. Mainstream Muslims are perfectly fine with feminism. They're perfectly fine with women's rights. They're perfectly fine with, modern Western civilization. What do you say to those critics who say that, well, you know what, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the way they do things over there, that has nothing to do with Islam?
Well, here's the thing. I would tell them that stop watching mainstream media, stop following the reformers, stop buying into all that crap, and grab yourself a nice Quran and read the Quran. Everything that I went through and everything every little girl is going through to this day, including here in America, comes straight from Quran and nothing else. Now, if they want to sugarcoat it and hand it to people, and if people are actually naive enough to believe that, well, that's their problem. But the reality of it is, if you grab a book of Quran and read it, even within the sugar-coated English translation, you will see everything that is wrong with human rights, women rights, and children rights, and animal rights, anything you name it. There is no such a thing as rights in Quran.
Well, let's just play devil's advocate for a moment, because I'm sure a lot of the leftists out there listening to this show are saying, well, that's just a white supremacist version of the Quran that paints Islam in a bad light. And if you actually read it in Arabic, well, then that actually, it actually proves why why Islam is a religion of peace. It's a peaceful religion. What do you say to those people who say that you just have to know Arabic in order to criticize Islam fairly?
I will laugh really loud, because second mandatory language in Islamic Republic of Iran, starting as a second grade, is Arabic. So I was actually taught Quran in Arabic. So what I understand of Quran is the truth meaning. Right. Including the fact that a lot of people try to argue over the fact that a lot of verses in Quran says do a jihad. And I come out and say, no, actually, it doesn't say jihad, even though jihad comes from the root words of jahd, which means war, not a struggle, war, combat. But the actual word that is used in Quran, again, not the sugar-coated English version, the real version says, فَقَتْلَهُمْ, meaning kill them. Qatlahum doesn't mean jihad, doesn't mean a struggle, it means kill.
Right.
So that would be my answer to them.
Right. Because a lot of Muslims here, they say, well, we don't take jihad like that. We don't think jihad is about killing people. It's just it's a personal struggle. Is that a representative of what Islam actually is? Is jihad a personal struggle? Like, for example, do I have a jihad against, losing 20 pounds? Is that my jihad? Is that the same thing?
Oh, no. No, here's the only personal jihad that is not even in Quran, it's in the Hadith, goes toward a mother. The struggle of a mother to raise her son to be soldier of Allah, to be handed over, to be killed in name of Allah. That's the only personal jihad meaning within the Hadith, again, not even in Quran. Every single time in Quran there's a word of jihad mentioned, it's either financial jihad, where it says, why don't you give your money in jihad, in path of Allah, or it says, why don't you go to jihad in path of Islam and give your life?
Right. So when people like Linda Sarsour come out and try to make common cause with the Women's March, the feminist Women's March, folks like Linda Sarsour and all the, Tariq Nassan and all those folks who are super into, trying to spread the idea that if you disagree with Islamic teachings and you are simply Islamophobic, and Islam actually supports women's rights, can you give us a couple examples as to how Islam in and of itself is completely antithetical to the feminist movement? Because they like to say that white supremacy is responsible for Islamophobia. Islamophobia is a real thing. People are irrationally scared of Islam.
Oh, yeah. Let me cover that, because I just did that on my last speaking engagement too. Islamophobia, as you said, means, irrational fear of Islam. As a person who's sitting here, and I'm talking to you, but I'm sure a lot of people are listening. Listen up, people. I don't have a phobia. I am terrified of Islam because Islam beat me down, broke me down, and I had to build myself back up to be the person I am today. And it didn't do it to me as a 30-year-old woman. I'm sitting here today. No, it did it to me when I was 7, 9, 11, and 14. So I have every possible logical reason to fear this thing. It is not a phobia. What it is that they created this word of Islamophobia, which it doesn't work on me and you, obviously, but it works on a lot of people.
Right.
They just created this word so we would all just shut up and not expose the truth about it, so they could continue going on with their own narrative, which is the Islamization of the West.
Right. And if self-censorship doesn't work, you've experienced something because you've taken this message to the street. The idea that Islam is Islam, it is terrifying by any objective, rational standard. I mean, if you're terrified of having your head cut off with a dull knife, then you are terrified of something absolutely irrational. If there is a person coming at you with a knife saying, "I'm going to behead you, death to America, death to Israel," you have a good reason to be terrified. And taking this message into the streets, taking this message to the people, you've encountered a little bit of, say, pushback from some of the social media companies.
I wish it was a little bit. No, I'm being cornered by all of them, literally. So starting with YouTube, everything is good on my YouTube account until I come out and do a video completely bringing verses of Quran and Hadith to expose Linda Sarsour's every single sentence that it does mean that she is after us as Americans. As soon as that video came out, guess what? My entire monetization got canceled on YouTube. I can literally put a kitty cat video up on my YouTube channel and I still won't get monetization. Then Facebook started censoring me, which is a new thing. A lot of people are being censored. Right after that, WePay, which is a banking system online, and GoFund, which is the front face of WePay, completely and 100% banned me from ever having any campaigns on their website to raise money because I'm an Islamophobe and a racist. And then right after that, PayPal put me on suspension because somebody who made a donation to my account said, "Go get them and fight the evil Islam."
I'm going to stop you right there. We're going to take a quick, short break. We will be right back with Annie Cyrus. We're going to talk about what she's doing. We will be right back.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Kevin Jackson Radio Show, and of course, I'm guest hosting for the day. My name is Brett Siegel. You can get me at Shaq General or The Disgruntled Millennial on Facebook. I am The Disgruntled Millennial, broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, patriarchy, white privilege, and Islamophobia. I'm back here again with Annie Cyrus. She is a human rights activist. She brings a message of peace and hope, which is basically everything that Islam doesn't stand for, to people who are subjugated and brutalized and beaten down by Islam. She was a child bride in the Islamic Republic of Iran, and she is being targeted by social media basically because she has brought verses of the Quran. This is what drives me crazy. The Muslims, they say, go read the Quran. It's all about peace. And then you read the Quran, and there's tons and tons, so many, like on every page, it's littered with blood. The Quran is littered with blood on every single page. And that's the English translation. Who knows what it means in Arabic? But then you try to bring up that point on Facebook, on YouTube, and you get shut down. What's going on? What was the straw that broke the camel's back? What made them start targeting you?
Oh, this was it. I had a campaign up, and the title of the campaign was Help Support Annie's 2017 Anti-Sharia Tour.
That's it?
That was it.
That is...
As soon as I get out there and have a tour in 11 different places to tell my story, GoFund decided I'm a racist. And let me tell you something so ironic. Last year, yesterday, I was interviewed by GoFund as one of their most successful humanitarian person who has raised money for causes like those who are ill, who are going through tough time in life. A year later, the same hero, the same humanitarian person to GoFund becomes a racist Islamophobe who gets shut down.
All because you basically brought in verses of the Quran. You did what they told you to do. You did what the leftists tell us to do. They say, go examine the Quran and see how peaceful it is for yourself. And then
yeah, but that's a problem. I took one step further than what they said. They tell you to go read it. But then as soon as you read it and talk about it, then you're guilty. You just need to read it. Just like the rest of Muslims. You know how they read the Quran and they just keep quiet and follow the religion, so-called. But I didn't do that. I read it, and then I brought it up to actual people saying, hey, by the way, this verse here means this. And I'm guilty of being truthful, I guess.
Right. Now, I know this is a little bit of a pop quiz, but there has recently been a terrorist attack in Israel. And my heart and prayers go out to the families of the people, of the 3 men who were killed in that attack. But I want to know, Annie Cyrus, what is something like that sanctioned by the Quran? Because if Quran is a religion of peace, then Palestinians wouldn't be rolling into Israel with knives and guns and trucks and ready to just mow down the first Israeli that they see. Why is it that Muslims hate the Jews so much? Is that embedded in Quran, or is that just an outlier?
Of course it's embedded in Quran. The people of Israel are the cursed people to Allah. Allah has cursed them. And the day will not come, the day, promised day, and day will not come until Muslims have killed every breathing Jew. Because here's what people need to realize. If you are any religion but a Jewish, you get a chance to convert. As a Jew, you don't get the chance to convert. You're destined to death. That is Quran. Every human being has the right to convert to Islam except Jews. Those, kill them where you find them.
To me, at this point, I totally believe it, because it's funny how the leftists are constantly trying to pin conservatives as the anti-Semites, as the Nazis. They leave the Muslims they wiggle them into this loophole into their reasoning. The people who explicitly hate Jews, the people who outright cry for death to Israel, they're the people who get punched with the kid gloves. But no, the other people, the conservatives who actually want Israel to have their own state, who actually want Israel to have their own country, 60 some odd Muslim countries, 1.7 billion Muslims, one little tiny sliver of land in the Middle East for the Jews, for the 6 million Jews that live there. But no, Israel is this awful, terrible place. And this is another reason why Islam makes common cause with the left, because the left hates Jews. The left is actually very anti-Semitic, don't you think?
Of course they are. But here's my question for you. Do they actually think, and by they, I mean the left, do they actually think when Muslims are done with Israel and they're done with us as conservatives, do they really think they're going to give them a break and say, hey, because you're a leftist retard and you helped us do this, we're just going to let you leave life? Is that what they're hoping for?
Yeah, I do believe so. I do believe that once the white supremacists and the conservatives and all the people who they are worried about are gone, that, you know, like the gays and the transgender, they're just going to live in harmony with Islam and with the Muslims, you know? I do honestly believe that a lot of them have been brainwashed to the point where they just literally can't see the words that are right in front of them. Linda Sarsour scares the living piss out of me because so many feminists eat out of the palm of her hand.
I know. And the funny thing is I actually got into an argument with one of them. And I said, I want to ask you this. Are you okay with the fact that she has to wear that thing around her neck or her head? And she's like, well, she doesn't have to. She chose to. So I bring up a verse of the Quran. I said, look, she has to. If she doesn't, Muslim men are open to raping and abusing her sexually. She goes like, well, I don't know what it says in Arabic. You might be making it up. I'm like, what?
It's just
like, well, I can't trust Google. Google might make it up. I'm like, oh my God. So you can trust Linda Sarsour, who has done nothing for your community because all she fights for is Muslim Americans, not you. You're going to believe her over the actual fact that I'm giving you. She actually said, yeah. She has no reason to lie. And I said, what's my reason to lie? She's like, you're Islamophobe. I'm like, oh my God.
Just for those people, just one more time, for those people who really don't understand what it's like growing up under Islam, just explain the situation surrounding you being sold into marriage. Because you know what? When people realize that it could be their own daughter, that by them silently, you know, being okay with, you know, the Islamization of America, they are basically saying that they are okay with what was done to you.
Exactly. And that's what pisses me off. Because when I tell them what happened to me and how easily, and I mean easily, as a matter of 5 minutes on a table, my father decided that I'm done. He handed me over to this man. I can't even use the word man on him. This male, crazy man, whatever you want to call it. In a matter of minutes, he could make that call. It didn't matter what I asked. It didn't matter how much I begged. It didn't matter how much I cried saying, I don't want it. I don't want to be a wife. Forget about who the man is. I just don't want to get married. I had no say. Not just my father. Even when I went, I said this millions of times. When I went to a court begging a judge to give me a divorce with a dislocated shoulder, bruised face, blood is still on my lips, he looked at me and said, what, you gotta start obeying your husband, young lady. Now go home and make him happy. A damn judge, my own father, everybody around me were fine with the fact that as a 14 years old, I was literally handed over to this man. And he paid my father. What was the agreement? I don't know words. I don't know any words, especially in English. I don't know what's a word to describe my feeling at that moment. And that exactly is when I was broken into pieces. He shattered me into pieces. I was nothing but a piece of property that he sold me. He took the money, he took the damn opium, and he walked away.
Sold into marriage for opium. I swear, this makes me want to rip somebody's heart out. And I'm a peaceful man. I'm trying to do this diplomatically, but, you know, we can't get our word out there. We can't get our message out there. We're constantly being censored. You're going on tour. You're going to be speaking your message, truth to power, and I'm really hoping I can bring this out and rally as many people towards your cause. Annie Cyrus, liveuptofreedom.com. You can get her at the Glazov Gang, too. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Annie Cyrus, I really, really appreciate it. I swear, listening to that just makes my head spin.
Yeah, thank you. I always appreciate you giving me a voice.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. We're going to end with that, and we really hope you guys have a great day. And think about the things that we've been talking about. Are we really living in the worst country in the world? Are we really a racist country? I don't think so. I think we're the best. God bless America. Have a great day.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.